everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Outlet, this time brought to you via Zoom, kind of involuntarily sponsoring this podcast. But we appreciate the service because we are under quarantine as much of the rest of the world. With the coronavirus going on right now, many students are worried about whether school will resume. What will graduation look like? Will there be a prom? And so many of those answers are starting to come out right now. And we have a senior here with us who's a senior at Mount Pleasant High School in Wilmington, Delaware. And his name is Mason. Mason, how you doing today?
I'm doing good today. How about you?
I'm doing well. This is kind of a different way to bring the Outlet podcast. So for anyone listening and not watching the video, apologize for the quality, but we can't be in the studio with everything closed down. Wanted to touch base with students right now and find out a little about what has this quarantine experience been like as far as your expectations in your senior year?
So I went through a school switch in my junior year, and that was a little rough patch for me. So it kind of motivated me more to, walk the stage and graduate. And, it was like a low blow when everything came around. And, we're just trying to get through it. We're doing classes every day through here on Zoom, and we're just trying to all get through it. And I expect that, we'll finish a little earlier, and either they'll push back graduation to a safer date or they'll find a substitute for it.
All right. And so have you been able to stay in touch with friends during this time? Are you isolated? How are you keeping in touch with people and staying sane?
Yeah, I am. I'm isolated besides the fact that I still have to go to work. But, other than that, I'm just staying in touch, obviously, through social media and everything else. It's not that hard. It's a little different, and it's a little weird being by yourself for most of the part every day. But, as long as everybody's staying safe, it's for a good reason.
Sure. And so one of your passions that I know is sports. And sports is probably one of those things that has been changed the most in this whole coronavirus quarantine outbreak, whatever you want to call the situation that we're currently in. Out of all of the sports that you follow, what sport are you missing the most right now?
Baseball, and that's by far. I was really looking forward to the basketball playoffs. I was really looking forward to the Flyers getting into the Stanley Cup playoffs because they were having a great year. But when baseball doesn't start when it's supposed to, it just hurts a little bit. With spring training, we got a little tease, and then it just all came to a stop. I already had about 4 or 5 Phillies games I had already bought tickets to, and it just sucks. It really does. And hopefully MLB figures something out. I don't have much hope in the NHL and NBA finishing off, but I do have hopes that the MLB will figure something out.
Yeah, the Major League Baseball is one of those things. It's almost like a babysitter for people. There's so many games that there's a comfort in hearing your game broadcast every single day. There's a comfort in seeing the daily grind that those players go through for the season that you don't get with all the other sports. There's such a break that the news cycle becomes more important. How are you coping with ESPN, all the channels that you probably really enjoy, not having any programming that you would normally be watching at this point?
ESPN, I watched probably for the first 3 days after sports ended, and I couldn't take it anymore. It was just a bunch of talk about which athletes tested positive or, what's going on. And it was driving me crazy. So I actually have MLB Network and the NBA Network. So I was just watching a bunch of the Hardwood Classics and the MLB Classic games. And then those got a little boring after a while too, because it's not the most exciting thing to watch all those games, especially when there's not an interesting one on. So I've been shying away from ESPN, but I have been keeping in touch by what I'm doing now is just watching a bunch of highlights and watching a bunch of interviews and learning about people, athletes that I look up to and athletes that I enjoy watching.
So many high school students right now are likely forfeiting. I don't want to say that in Delaware they are yet, but around the country, I think 26 school districts or 26 states have closed their schools. Here in Delaware, we're quarantined until May 15th, and the governor has come out and said, likely the school year is over. how do you feel about lost seasons for high school athletes, and how does that change recruiting? How does that change, do you think, the overall trajectory for people that are your age?
I played baseball my freshman year. I started to take more pride in academics after that, just because I felt it was more of a priority, and I know how it would feel. I feel just as bad as not being able to watch baseball and watch these, spring sports professionally. And I know those guys feel the same way, who want to go out there and just play. And for recruiting, with the NBA coming in and, starting to recruit, starting to say that they're going to let people right into the G League from high school and right into the league, it's hard because a lot of these other guys, the baseball, lacrosse players and all that, they won't have a chance to prove themselves for their senior year, and they might take a little harder work in college. It might take a toll on them. So it really is a shame, because senior year is the year where you really get eyes on you from colleges, and, I can only imagine how they're feeling, because it's a big loss. It's a heavy hit.
Yeah, I have the pleasure of coaching our baseball team, and my heart breaks for all those students that was going to be their last eligible sport to play. They played football, they played basketball or whatever, and the baseball season's now taken away, and they're not going to take the field that one last time as a high school athlete. In addition to that, there's not that many opportunities to play if you're not a collegiate level athlete.
And most people are playing their last games in senior high school. They don't maybe one guy from every school in the state goes collegiate for some sport where they're really highly recruited, and it is a shame.
Is there anything that you think that could be done as a teenager to try to bring sports this summer for high school students if the quarantine were to be lifted? Have you given any thought to that?
I saw one report, I believe it came out of 302 Sports, that lacrosse is looking to do a shortened season, like a 6-game little season, just to get the guys out there. In all honesty, I don't have any hope that things are going to return to quote-unquote normal anytime soon. And that's the biggest thing that, I feel like 2020 is canceled in general. I feel like, school isn't going to return back in time in September. I feel like sports aren't going to be back to normal. And they have reports that concerts aren't even going to hold fans until 2021. And obviously, if that's the case, it's the same case for professional sporting events. And, it's looking rough right now, but, we might pull through sooner. And if we do, I could definitely see some cool summer leagues. And you have to also worry about football preseason for high school football. That's where those guys get all their work in, is the 7v7s and all the training there. So it's definitely gonna be a little complicated at first.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The 7v7s are probably getting started in probably next month, right? That's normally June that begins for football.
Yeah, and I guess they still have the two-a-days too. I know they were banned in some states, but they still have like the two-a-days, and that's where those guys really get in shape. And high school football is obviously the sport in high school. That's the one that everybody has their eyes on. So It'll be tough, it'll be tough.
So one of the things that I always like to cover on the outlet is when I talk about how students are doing in general in the environment. I've never had anything quite like this going on when I've been interviewing people. So my concern really from working with teenagers almost my entire life, my working life, is, what type of toll is this taking on you and your friends mentally? How's everybody holding up? Have you talked to anybody who's really struggling with this?
So I check in with close friends, I want to say about every day, whether it's just keeping in contact or asking how they're doing. I keep in contact with my girlfriend every day. She's not obviously allowed to leave the house and everything, so it's harder for her. I have a little more freedom in the fact that I am allowed, because I go to work and I do have other responsibilities, but I do know that I take cautious measures before I leave the house. But mentally, it has definitely taken a toll, and it is, for me, I want to say, I'm not sure about any other people, but for me, it's just, the anxiety of what happens next. And it's I don't want to say fear of what happens next, but it's just like the you're just waiting on the edge of your seat. Like you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't know if you're going to get the news that somebody has been infected, or it causes a lot of anxiety just in the pandemic side of it. But on the staying at home all day and not being able to go out and get the proper exercise you might need, or being able to have the freedom that you're granted every other day, it definitely is weird. And it's sitting in a four-cornered room the whole day every day for the past month has just been, I've like redid my room 4 different times already because I got tired of looking at it. So it's definitely hard right now, but I'm finding escapes and I'm finding ways to cope with it.
Well, the jerseys look good in the background. You decorated well.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah, I figured I got all the rest of them in the closet. I just figured I got to put the good ones up.
Nice. Yeah, I see you got Jordan back there, 23, thrown back to his college days.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. So I guess basically, everybody outside of an immediate family now is in a long-distance relationship. I hadn't even thought about girlfriends, boyfriends. I'm married, 2 kids, so it's not something that comes up in my mind, but
right.
I'd never even thought about. So you and your girlfriend, when's the last time you two have seen one another?
Ooh, 4.5 weeks ago now. Yeah, I would say, this Tuesday is going to be 5 weeks. And it's not like the end of the world. I mean, it's like a third world problem, I know. And I know it's like it's not the biggest deal, but after seeing each other every day, it just takes just mentally, you just get more strained. I mean, it's hard to be on the phone 24/7 talking to somebody, It's hard to make that transition. So I'm just trying to deal with that. But everything else has been, pretty normal. It's starting to feel more normal now, I guess, like the way we're starting to live. So I'm happy with that. But that's one thing that is still feeling weird to me, is like just that, when you see somebody every day and then you can't, it's weird.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have my family here, and but it has been odd. Like I haven't seen my nieces, nephews, my mom and dad, stuff like that. I'm
right.
Out of touch, so it's been kind of crazy. Have you spoken with anybody who has been affected? You said you were working now. Have you spoken with anybody that their parents have lost their jobs during all this? Is there anybody that you've heard in your circle of friends that has been really horribly impacted by this?
A lot of my friends, they never really had jobs in the first place, or if they did, they're out. One person in my family, though, that has lost her job and bounced back tremendously is my mom. She was a personal trainer, and, she would go to the gym every day. She would go in at 6 a.m., come home at 3, make dinner, and go back at 5 until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And the way she's adapted is gone on her own, and she's doing everything through Zoom now, like everybody else is, and she's doing her live sessions, she's doing one-on-one sessions, and she's really running it by herself right now. So she was affected at first, and it was hard for her to get used to it for the first couple of days, but she bounced right back up, and she's doing better than before right now. So
excellent. Well, that's good to hear that she's found a way to adapt. I think, obviously with the green screen behind me, I'm broadcasting from my spare bedroom. So we're all finding ways to do things a little bit different. It's kind of scary to hear. You talked about the new normal. It's scary to hear. We've heard that words come from the governor. We've heard it on television. If 2020 is a wash, what does that even mean for the future? That's just kind of crazy to me. What is it for, like, let's take it small steps, graduation. That's coming up normally the first week of June. Has your high school told you what graduation looks like yet?
They are still in talks about everything, which kind of shocks me right now because I think I already know what's going to happen, that graduation and prom sadly are not going to happen, at least at normal time. And I think that they at least need to come out now and say, it's just not going to work for the set date, but we're going to try to push it back or try to find a substitute. The graduation talk has been very minimal, and the prom talk has been way more minimal than graduation because, prom doesn't hold the same importance as graduation, obviously. But graduation, I know, will be different, but they haven't said anything confirmed yet. So.
All right. So if I were to give you some ideas, and maybe you might have thought of some things, or you'll be thinking of them after this, would you rather have a video where your principal and the superintendent is all talking, you watch it with your family there at your home? Would you like to have something that's virtual? I've seen other countries are using Minecraft and Second Life in order to have a virtual type of graduation. Or would you like something more personalized for yourself? Everybody obviously wants that moment where their name's called, but what is it that would be an appropriate type of replacement, do you think, for seniors compared to, I don't know, not having anything at the present moment?
Yeah, like I said, when I was going through that transition and then bounced back into school after, taking the homeschool route for a couple months, I was really looking forward to walking the stage. And I think the thing that mattered the most to me was if I couldn't walk the stage, I just want a diploma. So I would be totally fine with a diploma being mailed, right directly to my house. I don't care, as long as I have something to show my family and people around me that I got through it and I did it, through all the things that I went through in my high school life, the times that I left school, the times that, I was failing and bounced back and everything else. It's just, I want that to put up, forever and show people like, it wasn't easy for me, but I did it.
So if that doesn't get too personal, I'd like to kind of go there. You said it. So you left school a few times?
I left, so I was having attendance issues for a little bit, but I did leave. So last January, I left DMA. I was at DMA and I left, and I was homeschooled until September. I was doing online courses. It was weird to me. And now I look back, actually, if you're familiar with Snapchat, you can go on your year ago memories. So I want to say in February and all that, I'm looking at my year agos and I'm like, at school when I'm looking at them and I'm like, I've made a big change and I was proud. And now when I look at them, I'm like, I'm doing the same exact thing I was doing this time last year, sitting at home doing schoolwork. And it's such a weird feeling. And I would have never thought in a million years it would play out like this. You don't expect something like this to happen. But yeah, I did leave, and and that's why I was excited to graduate, because I motivated myself to come back. Nobody around me told me to, and I came back. I was always the one that said school isn't for me, but I stopped making excuses and I went back and I showed up every day and in my senior year, and I was really focused on getting that piece of paper in the first week of June.
All right. Now, you and we spoke a little bit ago about doing an episode of The Outlet because you had this idea to launch kind of a sports media type of podcast and Instagram page. And I know you got the Instagram page up and you're still in the process of kind of getting that all together. How much of that was formulated during that time period where you were out of school?
So through my whole high school career, I've always had lingering thoughts about what I wanted to do for my future. Since it's all you hear when you walk in, since you walk the day you start high school to the last day you walk out, it's all you hear about is your future. During the time period when I was home for those 8 months, I thought about ways to escape and just like become a millionaire so I wouldn't even have to get my diploma. And then I started thinking more realistically, but not many good thoughts generated from that time period. I want to say I started thinking about this about 2 months ago. I knew my whole life I was writing. I always loved writing. I love speaking. I looked up to not only athletes, but I looked up to the people who allowed the business to be more entertaining, which falls on the reporters and the entertainer or the commentators. So when I started looking up to those guys more, I found more of a pride in writing and speaking about something that I take passion in, which is professional sports. So I'm looking to expand that more, and I'm looking to make it into something that I can just take and run and see where it goes.
Yeah, you're growing up in this generation where we have this type of Zoom thing where you could connect with an athlete, interview them for a podcast, and it could be a person all around the world, which wasn't really afforded my generation at the time. What do you envision your brand to be? Like, what would make your sportscast unique? What is it that you bring to the table?
When I get in my head a lot and I think deeply about a lot of situations. So, for example, I've only posted one YouTube video so far a month back about the Houston Astros cheating scandal, and I get really in depth and really passionate about it because it's something that not only affected the major leagues, but it affected the MLB world and the sports world. You know, you can ask a really diehard sports fan, and they'll tell you that it was something that, you know, drove them the wrong way. So with me, I like to be more emotional. I like to be more straightforward, and I'm not scared of being wrong if I take a hot take, or, you know, if I have a prediction, or, you know, if I say that this guy isn't the greatest, you know, because me and my buddies go through debates all the time, you know, because they like other NBA teams, and I'll tell them why, you know, their favorite team isn't the greatest, even though they swear they are. And, you know, I'm not afraid to get really argumentative with people, but, you know, I definitely there are sides to me that just take passion in talking and writing about sports. Excuse me.
That's all right. So, you know, I know there's a lot of online sites that have popped up. Barstool Sports is probably one of the leading, because they branded so many different things between pizza reviews, sports, but they rely solely really on other people's content a lot of times to create things. How have you thought about how to get your content? What are you thinking to do your show?
Content-wise, I want to be put out there. I don't want to be just somebody that comes out and tells you that LeBron retired, or, you know, Bryce Harper got injured. I don't want to just go out there and report news. I want to go out there and share my opinions and share news as well, but in an entertaining fashion. So the exact way I'm going to approach that, I haven't thought about it yet. I have multiple thoughts about it. You know, I have multiple ideas. I will say I follow Barstool on Instagram. I do listen to some of the reports. I'm not the biggest fan of Barstool Sports. The pizza reviews I find hilarious now, because I saw him doing bagel bite reviews the other day, and I thought it was hilarious how he was doing that. I forget his name, but I watch him almost every day. But Barstool Sports is they're pretty good, but I liked how they approach it, though. I do give them that. Though I don't follow along every day, I do like the way Barstool Sports approaches the way they do sports news and sports stuff. And somebody I've been following for a while is Bleacher Report and House of Highlights. I really do appreciate them because they bring you everything, and there's just, you know, that's the spot. And the guy who was running House of Highlights, his name was Omar, and he actually moved up to the Sports Center Instagram job. So now he's running stuff for Sports Center, and just his personality, people know him on a first name basis, no matter what page he's on. And that's the way I want to connect with people, and, you know, really just, you know, that's what sports is about. It's about coming together when times where we physically can't be together. And it's about bonding people. So
as far as the kind of mainstream guys that are on television, Stephen A. Smith, would he be somebody that you'd say that you enjoy because he's not afraid to be a little bit controversial and stick to his convictions?
I don't enjoy him. I don't enjoy his voice. I don't enjoy his short-lived temper. You know, when he's going on a rampage, I kind of zone out. But he will make very good points here and there. When he's in a more calm state, he definitely is one of the smarter minds for the NBA and the NFL. And he is somebody that I look up to for his lack of fear of being wrong. He just has so much confidence in himself, and that's why he's hated. I mean, that's why a lot of people will tell you, I don't like Stephen A. Smith. And, you know, it's okay to be hated when you're successful. So, you know, and he just does his own thing, and that's what I really admire about him. But like I said, I can only listen to him scream for so long.
All right, so who are the people that you really look up to? Who are the people that are, hey, that's the person that I think is doing it the right way?
One local guy, Tom McCarthy. Tom McCarthy and Greg Murphy, actually, both of them. I really have, you know, I've listened to them my whole life. I grew up listening to them, whether it was, whether it was them or, sorry, I'm trying to think of his name, the radio announcer for the Phillies, Larry Anderson, whether it was Larry in LA or them. And Greg Murphy, I actually had the chance to meet last year at a Phillies game. My grandmother took me because I got her into baseball, and she loves it now. And so we went, and she has her little thing with Greg. She loves Greg Murphy, and I'm walking on the concourse and I run into him, and I'm like, oh my God, Greg Murphy. I was like, every game I see you, reporting on the side or on the foul lines and in the stands. I was like, and I took a quick picture with him, and I told him, I was like, I really respect what you do. I think you're a really good reporter, and that meant a lot to me because I got to tell him how much I appreciated his work. So locally, I love McCarthy. I love him. I love Greg Murphy, and in the bigger realm, I do enjoy Schefter and Woj. I'm just gonna call him Woj. I don't really know how to say his full last name, but I do appreciate those guys because those guys get probably 2 hours of sleep a night when in the NBA and NFL offseason, you're seeing a tweet come out of them every 10 minutes, and I have so much respect for those guys, and I have no idea how they do it.
I'm gonna ask you to be a little controversial here. The great debate. Is cheerleading a sport?
That's a good question. Nobody has ever personally asked me that, but it is something that I see every day. It's something that people talk about and joke about. I don't know. You can classify a sport as whatever you want. You can, as long as you're being athletic, you can classify it as a sport. Because if we're being honest, you're being more athletic in cheerleading than you are in golfing. Though golfing is a very tough sport and it is something that is very hard to do, you're not running around as much. You're not getting you're not doing backflips and all that. And I would say if you consider gymnastics a sport, I would consider cheerleading a sport. Personally, is it a professional sport? No, it's obviously not. It's not on the same realm, and that's just a fact. It's the same fact that, that the WNBA or the women's soccer is just as good. It's just not on as big as a level for whatever reason that is. But would I consider it a sport? Yes, I think that cheerleading is a sport, and maybe not like the sideline basketball cheerleading, but like the people who actually go into competition and do like the big formations. I would consider that a sport.
Okay. I don't consider cheerleading a sport, and I get murdered for it anytime I express that.
Yeah. No, I don't have – if I didn't think it was a sport, I have a lot of controversial takes where I could probably make people mad. But, if you want me to be honest, like I said, I don't think football and basketball cheerleaders are athletes. I think they're entertainers, if anything. But, I think that people who go out there and, basically they can do backflips that I can't. They can do everything that I can't. So, I'll give it to them on that.
Yeah, I guess I look at it from the perspective of golf. Like, is it a skill or is it a sport? Because I certainly used to play every single week. And it's a very difficult skill, but I'm not sure how much cardiovascular I had riding my golf cart from point A to point B.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, that's just a little thought there. I was kind of curious. So
I love it. Controversial.
If people wanted to start following your first video that you posted or follow up, what are you going to call this? Where are people going to find this?
So the brand name right now, quote unquote brand. That's what I'm going with right now because that's what it's the easiest thing that comes to mind. It's Out the Park Productions. So that is the whole thing. So that is like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everything, every video I come out with, every podcast I come out to is through my brand, company, what it's soon to come, Out the Park Productions. I can plug all those social medias later. They're kind of like just the spelling of some of them are different. So it'd probably be easier if you wanted to like write it down and show at the end or put it in a description. But so it's really based behind Out the Park Productions. And in the future, I plan on just I want to make energetic YouTube videos. I want to make something that people can really enjoy. And, even if they disagree with me, they watch me. Because there's people that I look up to that I disagree with all the time, but just how they carry themselves and talk about sports topics, I still respect them. I'm looking to lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I'm looking to make podcasts for news purposes and to express myself on how I think about a situation. And the YouTube videos are going to be separate because they're going to be something a little different. And I know I have the skill to make people laugh. I know I can be funny a lot, and people tell me that. So I want to find a way to mix that in with everything, because comedy, at the end of the day, everybody enjoys comedy, and everybody enjoys something that they can get a laugh out of, even if it's one laugh a video. So I'm trying to mix everything in together to where I can really just grasp people's attention.
Excellent. So let's test your sports acumen. Here we go. The next big thing coming up in sports is the NFL draft. It's coming up next week. It will be one of the first virtual NFL drafts, I think, in history. I don't think there's ever been a virtual draft this way before, coming directly from Roger Goodell's basement. If you had to go and mark who's first taken in the draft, and have you put together kind of your top 10 list?
So I'm very familiar with the standout guys. I didn't put much effort into it either, but I didn't have too much time to watch college football this year. I was working a lot and caught up in school. I did get to go see a couple games in Annapolis and at Rutgers, so that was interesting. But I believe that Burrow is going to go first to Cincy. They've been talking about Tua's stock falling. I'm not sure what's going on with him. I know he had hip injuries and everything else. I don't know what's going to happen with him, and but I remember, what was it, 2 years ago, when I forget his name, the Oklahoma quarterback now, who used to start for Alabama when Tua was his backup, and they switched, they kind of switched positions. That's when I started watching Tua, and I knew that he was a young threat, and I think that he's going to still go top 10. And we have a great wide receiver class. We have guys like Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, the kid from LSU. I'm not great with names. I've been slacking a little bit, but those guys are.
So something you may not know is Tua actually scored the lowest out of all quarterbacks on the Wonderlic, and normally when quarterbacks score low on that, their career trajectory is not positive. So that may be the reason why his ranking is dropping so quickly.
Right, yeah. I did hear, so I heard multiple reports about that, but I never paid that much attention to it, because in my eyes, if I'm an NFL franchise and I see a young athletic kid that can sling the ball 60 yards and run just as good as he throws, I don't pay much attention to that, especially for teams that need a young QB. And that's why stuff like that doesn't bother me. I base the NFL and NBA drafts off of athleticism and off of pure skill. Guys that really know how to control the field, and guys that know how to go out there and, like Joe Burrow doesn't play like he's 22 years old. Joe Burrow has the mindset of somebody who's, a 35-year-old vet. And the way he carried that LSU team last year was just something special. And those are things that I like to pay attention to.
All right. So I disagree with you. I think when you're drafting a quarterback, I think for all other positions, yes, athletics really matter, making sure they got those intangibles. When you're drafting the general on the field, the quarterback, I would disagree and say that the Wonderlic test, the intelligence factor really matters. And time again, that has been proven. Your Vince Youngs could not survive in the league. They had a low Wonderlic. Russell for the Oakland Raiders, same thing, low Wonderlic. Cannot read and figure out what's going on in the defensive schemes. Cannot memorize the playbooks nearly as well. It's an intangible that I think is very important.
I'm not taking anything away from that. And I know there was somebody a couple years ago who did really bad on that same test. That was a projected high pick, and he fell badly. But I do pay attention to certain factors, and I think there's a lot of things that you can pay attention to for how you think a player is going to play out. And I should have mentioned it before, though. I do fully understand where you come from when you talk about Tua in that state, and I can understand if somebody was focused on that, why they would have fears. It's just in my eyes, for some reason, I think that if you want me to be honest, I never thought Tua was that special. I mean, people overhyped him at first. But I still think that he is one of the best that, out of this draft. And I feel like that he can come in and make a little difference in the league. I know a lot of people, heard one person say that they expect him to play out like Haskins and, kind of just get like a backup role and not do so good, then slowly get into the starting role and, kind of be rough, but a guy like Haskins has high expectations for next year. But I have a little bit of faith into it, and I think that, intelligence, I mean, you can learn every day. You can learn something from the right coach. Tom Brady didn't go into New England the same guy he left New England. Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft and all those guys behind the scenes, they helped make Tom Brady who he is today. They helped him, just the schemes that they run and everything. Tom Brady's leaving New England with far more knowledge than he came into New England with. So that's something that you can always keep an eye on too.
So speaking of knowledge, I want to play this clip for you real quick. I'm going to share my screen. I may have to edit this creatively. So we're going to go to a clip right now and see what Mason thinks of this answer. All right, Mason, so on a recent episode of Jeopardy, this happened. And I want to see what you think of it.
One of the topics covered in a Major League Baseball course at Arizona State is this player who broke the color barrier in 1947.
What would your answer be?
Jackie Robinson.
I'm so glad you said that, but listen to the answer that's given from someone who goes to USC.
Who is Babe Ruth?
Nope.
Did she really just say who is Babe Ruth? Let's play this one more time.
Daniel.
Who is Jackie Robinson?
Yes.
Oh, thank God he got it right. But
One of the topics covered in a Major League Baseball course at Arizona State is this player who broke the color barrier in 1947. Shaukat.
Who is Babe Ruth?
Nope. Nathaniel.
Who is Jackie Robinson?
Yes.
All right, so Mason, would you ever answer that? What do you think about that?
So I did see that. I saw it on Jackie Robinson Day on April 15th. So I don't know if that was live. Do you know anything about that episode? Was it live on April 15th? Or I think that's why the question was asked. And I'm not sure, but I know Jackie Robinson Day was April 15th.
Yeah, and Jeopardy pre-records everything ahead of time, so it was likely recorded for airing on that day. And
I did see that on Jackie Robinson Day, and I was like, that is such a low blow to say on Jackie Robinson Day as well. It's funny. I mean, it's definitely I guess if you're not familiar with sports and you hear a big name, I mean, I can do that with like old rock and roll musicians. If I hear somebody mention somebody's name and I'm like, oh, who is it? Did he sing this song? And my dad will look at me the wrong way. But I mean, I might be able to.
My question for you is this. What is something in sports that you've gotten so wrong that you'd be embarrassed by if you were running this page at this point and it was a take that just was ridiculously wrong? What have you gotten wrong before?
That's a good question. One thing does come to mind. Freshman year, we're in the locker room. It's probably the first practice for baseball for that year. And Ben Simmons had just gotten drafted, maybe. Yeah, it must have been because the draft was in April and that was baseball. He must have just gotten drafted, or it must have been just announced that he was going to miss his rookie year due to his injury. Everybody's talking. They're like, when he comes back, he's going to be a machine. He's going to make the process turn into, something that's going to complete. He's going to just dominate. And I was sitting there like, I don't see any hope in this guy. He's not a great shooter. He's not that athletic. I mean, he's all right. They're just – the Sixers are going to be the same as they've always been. And I wasn't wrong about that. The Sixers are still the same. I mean, not as bad as the 10-72 Sixers, but the Sixers are still the Sixers. But I was so wrong about Ben Simmons. If you want to take that as like a hot take, trivia-wise, I've never been tested to a point like that, so I couldn't really say. But for a hot take, I was really wrong about that. I think I bashed Simmons. If you've ever seen the DMA campus, you have to take probably a half-mile walk to the baseball fields from the locker room, and the whole time I'm like, he's not going to be that good. Joel Embiid's not doing that great. The Sixers suck. And I think the whole time I was just rambling on about how bad Ben Simmons was going to be. And, he turned out to be a pretty decent player, and he still has a lot. He still hasn't reached his ceiling, and he's nowhere close. But I was wrong, and
I'll take the bait on this. So Ben Simmons still can't shoot. Let's be honest. The guy is great with the ball. He's got excellent court vision. He's one of the fastest players in the NBA for getting from point A to the point B. He's great underneath the basket. But, no, he still has for whatever reason, not developed his shot. Would the Sixers be better with a different point guard that could shoot?
Here's my issue with this. There are a lot of young point guards out in this league right now that are absolutely carrying for, they're putting on for their teams. And one guy I want to point out in general is Ja Morant. He is a player that I have the utmost respect. I see the most potential in him, and he is my biggest inspiration in all of sports right now, just his story. For somebody to, go out there and be the leader of the court is not easy. I can't say that what Ben does is easy, especially with the drama that goes on with that Philadelphia team, and especially with the changes. Every year the roster changes drastically. You lose 5 guys, you get 5 new ones. I mean, it's rough, and it's rough to be a point guard in a condition like that when you don't know your team that well. The team doesn't bond that well, it's been said. The team doesn't get along that well, and it's all under a coach who doesn't know how to run plays. If you go to a Sixers game, it's easier to notice. You can notice it while watching on TV too. But I went to a few this year, and you're just noticing these guys are just running back and forth, throwing the ball up in the air, and praying if that they miss the shot, they get a rebound. I do think that Ben is a great point guard, and I think that he is somebody. Let me take that back. I think he's a great basketball player. Do I think that he's a great point guard? No. He doesn't have the same leadership that you would see another point guard have, and obviously he doesn't have a shot. We're talking about somebody who made 2 3-pointers this year, which for somebody who made none last year was a great, that's a great
200% increase from what he was doing before.
Right. And right now, if every time I watch the Sixers game this year, we're up by 20 or 30, the ball goes in Simmons' hand and he still doesn't shoot. If you're up by 20 or 30 points, that's your time to shoot, And I feel like he lacks confidence in himself. And if it's not him, then it must be Brett Brown or his teammates telling him not to shoot, which wouldn't make sense to me. But I think that the Sixers would be better off with one of 2 things: an improved Ben Simmons or somebody who can come in and really put leadership in this team. There is absolutely no leadership on this team, and you can't even call Joel Embiid leadership. He's somebody that's not a man of his word. He's somebody that, he cries a lot. I mean, the only time I didn't make fun of him for crying was when he literally cried after the Raptors game, which broke everybody's hearts after that Kawhi shot, But he's just a crybaby. He's I don't mind the internet beefs. I don't mind, going on Instagram after a game and seeing Joel Embiid talk his stuff to, to Al Horford, when he was on the Celtics, or to another big man. But when you can't back it up the next day, it doesn't do you any justice. Yeah, Embiid's the type of guy to drop 40 and then drop 5.
I don't understand how Embiid can be so spotty. He can come back in after breaking his finger for Kobe Bryant night. He can be absolutely dominating, talk trash, and then the very next day not even show up on the court.
Yep. That's exactly what I mean.
It's absolutely embarrassing. All right, so we covered a lot here. We covered schools. We covered your sports taste. What would you like people to know about your future, and how would you like them to support you?
The future is a long time coming. I'm going through processes right now where I'm figuring out, I'm flattening out all the troubles, and I'm trying to get through times like this that set me back. For the future, I expect big things. I've always thought of myself as somebody who has that motivation and that drive to be successful. So I'm using this time right now to stop making excuses and start working and start improving and start making, what could potentially be a living for me. And I'm trying to, I just want people to understand that, I could have 10 followers on Instagram for the next year. I could have 0 subscribers for the next year. It won't stop me from putting out content. I will put out content no matter what, until I'm heard, until I'm seen, until I'm noticed. And I just wanted to take me to the next level until I keep moving up. That is my big, excuse me. I don't have, I'm not expecting to move into my penthouse in, New York City tomorrow. I plan on tomorrow improving myself. I plan on the next day improving my speaking, or the day after that improving, the way I make a video. And then, I have a different goal for each day, and this is a good starting point. I like that you gave me the opportunity to come on here. This is a huge starting point. Not many people have the chance to professionally talk to somebody without it being, a flop or something that's not taken that serious. And, a lot of your work that you do is respected by a lot of people and a lot of kids. So I do hope to, keep moving up in the ranks and make more of a name for myself as I go along. So I would just expect a lot of content and a lot of new stuff. I like trying out new stuff. I don't like sticking to one routine. I like being somebody who can just come out there and surprise you. So.
All right, well, I'm going to talk to my listeners for a quick moment here. So if you'd like to support Mason, our page is on Patreon. We are patreon.com/The Outlet Podcast. On there, you can designate a monthly contribution, a one-time contribution, and if you put that you would specifically like to help Mason out, I will take that money and it goes directly to him. So again, go to patreon.com/The Outlet Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by viewers just like yourself that go on there. We have about just not a huge overhead. It's about $18 a month to keep these streaming on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else. But your support helps us fund those, as well as goes into both educational opportunities and possibly, if you were to donate to Mason, it would help him get his podcast hosting up when he's ready. In the time of a quarantine, I'm sure you wouldn't mind that, would you, Mason?
No, and I didn't actually know that you did all that. I mean, but I have. Well, that's the reason I've been taking this time to work hard, because I'm looking to get – I told you personally that I only have one computer in the household. I'm looking to get my own. I'm looking to get a mic. I'm looking to get, a bunch of things, having my own little setup. So, that's why I've been working, just to get stuff like that. So, I mean, that's good that you do that, though. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I believe that content is way more important than the equipment that you have or the ability. I teach audio, radio, video for a living every day. And I tell students all the time, it's not about how expensive the camera is that's in your hands. It's actually about how well you understand it and what type of content you're going to make with it. Same thing goes for you. You have a computer, you have a webcam. You can start booking local high school talent, college talent. You can reach out to people and see if you can get professionals. I have a friend who does a podcast for the Cleveland Browns here in Delaware, and he's gotten players that have been drafted by the Browns and interviewed them on his podcast from Delaware. So the opportunities in today's connected age are much larger. So don't limit yourself simply because you don't feel that you have the correct microphone or the correct technology. Just create good content, and the listeners, the viewers, they will come, and the support will come as well.
I fully agree with you. I did not mean it that way. I'm looking to I like the feel of something professional, and I could, like I said to you, I don't care if I have 0 subscribers or 10 followers. I'll still put out content every day. I'm fine with it. I could record any interview I want on this computer. I'll do it on my phone, I'll do it on anything. It's just that, if I have the opportunity to expand my equipment, I would always love to do that. And anybody would. I mean, it's why wouldn't you? And what you were saying, I think it is easier right now for people to book professional figures online because nobody is doing anything right now. Nobody is, these professional guys you're starting to learn. It's like they have nothing to do as well. And I've seen a lot of people have the chance to go on Instagram Live with people, and it's amazing. It's pretty cool. And I've had the chance to go on Instagram Live with a couple, actually like TV stars, and Bob. Are you familiar with Bob Menery?
Yes, I love Bob Menery.
I went on live with him the other day, and it was awesome to me because he's somebody who, if you want to talk about commentating, he is somebody that probably had a dream growing up that he wanted to be a commentator, and then was like, I know the exact plan. I'm a comedian. I know what to do, and he just took it by storm. And that is somebody, when you ask me who I respect, that is somebody who I respect too. He's great. But yeah.
Yeah, Bob Menery is killing it in the meme world of short videos on Instagram. If you have not followed him, it's easy. It's at Bob Menery. I'm going to put underneath here, Mason, right now, your Instagram handle and stuff should be popping up down there. So I'll put that in. So if you'd like to give a subscribe or follow to Mason's work, you can. And I'm going to leave it with this. Mason, one of the things for the outlet I always tell is, is there anything that you would offer to somebody young like you as a final word, final advice?
Sorry, say that again. I got quiet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you would offer other people as your final word, final advice, maybe through the lens of what all high school students are going through, everybody in the country?
Stop making excuses. We all have different living situations, but you can go out there and do something for yourself, no matter how small or big the scale is. Don't let your mental issues hold you back. Don't let anything hold you back, because at the end of the day, you and I both know we're all capable of doing something. It's just about how determined you are. And that's just one thing that I believe in heavily, is that we can all go out and make a change. It's just based on how determined we are.
Excellent. Well, Mason, it's been awesome having you here as a guest for The Outlet. We wish you well. We can't wait to see what you're doing. Once you get everything back up and running, let's do another episode, and we can highlight some of your work. We can maybe show some of your work that didn't turn out so well. Maybe your freezing cold takes as well as those hot takes that made it well. I'm looking forward to watching your story.
Thank you so much, Greg, and I appreciate talking to you. It was a great conversation. It's been an hour already, so time went by fast, but I feel like we got a lot out, so thank you.
Yeah, these things always go by really fast. So everybody out there, thank you for supporting The Outlet. Once again, patreon.com/The Outlet Podcast. You can subscribe and get content, as well as if you know anybody out there that is a teenager or college age, I like telling their stories. So send them my way, and we'll see them on another episode. Take care, everybody, and have a great day. Make sure you social distance and stay safe. My best to all of you and your families.